a runner who had professional aspirations when I was a kid and didn't make it. I was endlessly fascinated by those who did and what they did differently. Like, the people that were really on the limits and on the edge. And, that's what attracted me to work to do the book, Running with the Buffaloes, and what brought me to Michigan to do Sub 4 with Alan Webb. And I saw what Newbery Park did from afar. And, as a casual observer kind of following the sport still, I just kept hearing Newbery Park, Newbery Park, Newbery Park. And, finally, like the sum total of all those performances for me kind of culminated with their national championship where they averaged 14 for 5K. And that just, like, my mind was blown.
Sean's the reason that we all
Sean is the reason
about our performances in the 90s.
Yeah, so when Sean, we met through a mutual friend, and when Sean, I got to know Sean, I was like, this is exactly I was as curious as I've ever been. How the hell did you do it? That was what brought me back.
So how'd you do it?
A long story. Again, teaming up with Chris was great. I originally, he probably doesn't know this or even remember this, but I tried to send him an email and I got his contact from different people, but I never heard back. A mutual friend of ours kind of connected us, and I think he was pretty hesitant at first, even though he knew a lot about it. He was asking me a lot of questions, but I think after a couple of weekends I spent, flying out to Boston and going over the story, Chris agreed to help because I thought if there was no better person to write my first book with would be Chris Lear, who probably wrote, which I consider the best running book of all time, Running with the Buffaloes. And so, the question of like how Newbery Park became so great, I mean, it's a simple one, but complex too. It's the mindset. I went in Newbery Park. I took that job. It was more of like, I don't want to say a fun joke. I was just telling someone earlier, my wife had gotten a really good job in Southern California. I kind of played around with coaching post-collegiates. I was like a volunteer in colleges and different things I was doing. I was living out of my car for a while, learning from some of the best coaches in the world. I traveled around and saved up enough money to say, hey, I'm going to put myself in front of the best coaches and learn from them, like by watching them. And my wife got this amazing opportunity for a job, and we had to move to Ventura County, California. And I was kind of mad about it because I'm like, there's nothing here for me. So I emailed 12 coaches in the area that was somewhat drivable, high school coaches, said, well, maybe I can coach high school and just help them out and see if I like high school. But I didn't think I had the temperament for it. I was like, I don't think I'm going to like high school. So I emailed him. The one coach out of the 12 got back to me. We went to lunch. That afternoon, they walked me in the office. He's like, I'm retiring in a couple of years. You can coach at Newbery Park. It was that simple. And I probably almost quit like 20 times within the first couple months. I was like, no, these kids don't understand what it takes. So I switched my mindset and I said, I'm gonna do everything in my power to make this the best team that ever happened. And people laughed at me when I said that, and that's what I did. I came in 100%, and we weren't good at first. We hadn't been to a state meet, I think, ever as a team. We had like one individual qualifier. We hadn't won a league title in 21 years. I never lost a league race with my whole time there, and this is with a team that we always called ragtag. I mean, we'd show up to meets and guys would be wearing a Princeton shirt or a Duke shirt. I mean, we didn't even have uniforms that matched. I was like, oh my gosh. And like, they just had black shorts, but all different shorts. It was just terrible. So I was like, all right, we got to fix this. And I always set the bar high. I was lucky enough to be around some of the best coaches, and I got to see I got to see guys who win medals, who won gold medals, work out. And there was something about their mentality, and it was something about like being positive. And I know it sounds cliche, but like I'm really big into manifesting and believing in things and thinking positive. And positive thoughts, they outweigh negative thoughts, so that's a good thing. And I always used to tell my guys that. And I just came in and said, hey, listen, like we're going to set the bar up here, and that's what we did. And it snowballed into having a guy that ran 9:17 for a 2-mile my first year. Then 4 years later, we had multiple guys running low 8:30s. I had girls running 4:36. I think we had national class records, girls 4x16 national record, guys national records. I wasn't a big relay guy. Never ran a whole lot of relays. I always wanted my guys to run individual events. So the only 2 relays we ever ran, we broke national records. I just never did any. We actually only broke the state record in the DMR. We had a bad run that day, so unfortunately we didn't break the national record. But I think it's setting that bar high, and like coaches always, they always joke around with me, and they're always like, "You think everybody can be fast?" And I do, and I think everyone can be faster. There's a famous line that kind of like snowballed that I said once, and I got a lot of hate from it. I was doing an interview one day, and I said 420 is not fast for a high school mile. It's just not fast. And I didn't mean it to be like this like meme that people talked about in running. But then I started traveling, and I was like in a layover in Las Vegas, and this guy was like in the seats next to me. He's like, 420 is not fast. I'm like, oh, he must watch our videos. And then like it started happening all the time, and it was kind of cool. But like the reality of that is when a coach tells me and they go, and this is what I mean by mindset, they're like, so 420 is like, but not every kid can run 420. That, like you're hurting a kid by saying that because we're not all capable of that. Well, I said, now it's not possible because you just said that. So like you understand what I'm saying? So it's not like, yes, I understand not every kid is going to run 420 or every kid's not going to run 410 or break 4 minutes, but you got to start thinking higher. You got to break those barriers. Newbery Park, I think they're going to come here tonight. There's a couple guys from Newbery Park that are training here in town that were going to come by. They'll tell you, like, our bar was high. Our bar was real high. And that's where we set it. When we talked, like 9 minutes wasn't hard for us for 3,200, and that's the way our mentality was. So like we had freshman kids that were regularly running like 440 in the mile or whatever what was fast for a freshman, and like it's just setting that bar high. And I think that's the basis of why I think Newbery Park was so good. And like even at my short stint at UCLA, like I had guys go from like 402 to 354. There was 1 All-American in 6 years before I was there, and I had 9 the year I was there. And it's like I just set the bar high. You know, sometimes you make enemies doing that, and you know I push the boundaries a little bit, and the things I like to do with coaching as far as like making my athletes committed and making the families committed, and yeah, that's kind of in a nutshell.
So it's got to be more than just setting the bar high, though, because everybody most runners are type A, right? They set high bars and. What else went into it? And maybe Chris, like you'd be actually in a good position to answer that. Like, what are your observations from besides just setting high bars?
I mean, I just hear him talk for 2 minutes. I want to go outside and like hammer him out. I pull my hamstring and leaving the door. But like, I mean, it's I think like, you know, I've had the good fortune in the running. Well, I'll keep it to running because that's why we're all here. That's what unites all of us. But the greats that I've run with and you know, covered very up close. Like, rarely does greatness happen coloring between the lines. You know, like it's, and it was so evident to me immediately with Sean that there's so many things that he did differently. He just touched on some of them here about the uniforms and like how they're a ragtag, and no, like that's not acceptable. We're gonna have uniforms. He built a culture, and I see a lot of similarities between him. And this is kind of my thought process as we first got together. And our co-author, Andrew Greif, was absolutely instrumental in making this happen. He's not here tonight, but I want to make sure that we acknowledge Andrew. We could not have done it without Andrew. He was amazing. You know, as he told me the story, in my head, I'm seeing a lot of similarities between him and Mark Wetmore, right? Like, he couldn't get a job. One high school gets back to him. Wetmore, before he went to Colorado, you know, no one would give him an opportunity. And it's because he coached a kid in high school, was on the team at CU, and they needed a volunteer assistant who lobbied for his high school coach when everyone else wanted a triathlete in Boulder at the time to be the coach. And he gets his opportunity. And, you know, likewise, like Sean, his passion for the sport was so evident. But the biggest quality I think the two of them share is that they make becoming the fastest, best athlete you can, pushing your limits seem like the coolest thing to do. And so many coaches, I think, know X's and O's, but why is there programs that just go to the moon and do it consistently like he does? And I think it's that culture bit, and I think there's a lot that goes into it that Sean has, but he just has that quality about him that gets people to believe in themselves and in the greater vision.
So, you talked about that a little bit. So that was the one thing that when I heard that you were helping Sean with this, I was like, back reread Running with the Buffaloes just to almost like put my mind back in that era. And anybody else who grew up running in the 90s, it was like you just hammer all the time. But I think now we've learned so much more about how to actually get performance out of people, and so I think from like a leadership perspective, it sounds like Mark and Sean are similar. From a training philosophy standpoint, I'm guessing there's probably some differences, maybe, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say from my perspective, I wasn't involved in the sport for a long time, and so I figured just on the X's and O's part that there's got to be something different. Really curious to see how different it looks. And I can say one of our first readers of Sean's book, of our book, was a high school coach, and he said, I think this book is going to revolutionize high school running. Because I think that the manner in which he trained his guys all year round was completely illuminating to me and different than anything I've ever seen. And with and so I'll let he can.
Yeah, may talk a little bit about that. You mentioned a little bit about that earlier, about how just kind of how you're approaching with your own cycle. I think I'm sure. Yeah,
I mean, I felt like coming from more of like a post-collegiate idea of coaching, I wanted high school, I felt like I would go to, here's an example, I'd go to a lot of high school track meets and I felt disappointed. I would see coaches leave hurdles in lane 3, only giving 2 lanes to run the 1600. I just felt like it was amateur hour. I said, I'm changing that. It's not happening. So I'd complain. I'd make them move the hurdles. And I would do little things like that. But as far as my teams are concerned, as far as training, I just came in and said, listen, this is, if you guys believe in what I do and you listen, things will happen. And I got lucky because people started running fast quickly, and we started seeing that things turn, guys breaking 9, guys running 4:10, and which was considered fast at the time. And it's so that they'll start believing in what you say. And same thing with the girls. We had tons of girls breaking 5 and then 4:40 and running in the 4:30s, and that helps when they start running like that. But as a coach and training wise, I do a lot of things. And listen, there's more than one way to get to the final result. And I can never say oh, my way was the best. But we just did a lot of things that, we did speed year round. Everything is progressive. Progressive. Our hardest months were October, November. I was telling these guys earlier today, our goal was NXN. It always was. It was we want to run well at NXN. We want to win NXN. And that's our overall goal. So we have to run well at the state meet. And December, so the end of November, beginning of December is our bread and butter. My guys wouldn't race for 5-6 weeks in the middle of a season when no other team did that because they had confidence. I think you develop more in training than racing. Coaches will argue with that, but that's just my philosophy. I think I can develop a runner better through training than racing. Yes, you have to race, but you don't have to race all the time. So, having those guys, I had some of my best runners. My number 2, Nico Young, was the number 1 runner when we won NXN in 2019. Jace Ashburner, who ran 8:44, back then was really fast. He went to the University of Colorado. He was our number 2, and he was begging me at one point to run the county meet. And it was right in the middle of our 5-week cycle of no racing. And we would skip the county meet. We just didn't run it. And everyone hated us for it. And he came to me and I was I'll let you do it if you want to do it, but you got to make the choice. This is a team effort. And, him committing to that meant a lot to me because he didn't know, he's 15, 16 years old. He's I could win this. I want to run this. And I think that type of commitment, but, I'll kind of back up. I just think it's progressive. Summer's important. I went to the parents one year, the year before we won our first NXN title, and I said, let's go to altitude for a month. We were at sea level, training in Newbery Park, is Ventura County. If you guys are familiar with it, it's just north of LA. It's not just south of Santa Barbara. And every parent looked at me like I was crazy. They were a month? You want to take our kids away for a month? And then one parent raised his hand and said, you could have mine the whole summer. So it broke the ice, but Zachy Blunt, the kid who came, and he ended up running for UC Santa Barbara, when he came and decided I'm going to go, then Nico Young said yes. And then the thing was, Nico was our leader. So once he said yes, other parents were well, if Nico's going, I want my kid. So all of a sudden I had 12 boys my first year, and we went up to altitude for a month. And I had, we rented a house, we raised the money. I charge, you guys know prices of stuff. I charge them $650 each for the whole month So and I raised the rest, and I ended up putting a lot of my own money into it because I threw out a stupid number and said it's only going to be $650, and I'm like, oh shoot, it's like $2,000. So my wife was very nice and said, okay, but don't ever do this. So we ended up paying for most of it. But at the end of the day, the story is, it's like I was going to give 100%. They were going to give it back. Talk about training. I believe in progressing the whole season. We do speed year round. We're not scared to hit hard workouts. I know there's a lot of trends from different coaches. It's like everything's medium. You hear double threshold, all this stuff. High schools, I think, is, you can get into the details of training with double threshold. In high school, I think it, can be good and bad in a lot of ways. But Newbery Park was known for like wailing out workouts, going to the well. But let me tell you, those are the days that Mile Split shows up. We didn't do those workouts every day. The only days Mile Split would want to show up is when we're doing the really hard workout, when Nico Young's averaging sub 430 for mile repeats on grass. Those are the days he wants to do that. But it's just, I don't know. Training wise, I think it's just, there's moments in training that you have that I think you need as a coach, and that's my personal belief, and not all coaches believe this, that I think you kind of have to wow yourself. Like, you want a kid to do something so great in that workout that is maybe even better than a race, because they need that confidence, that they know they can do that. A famous story, I'll give a little snippet from the book, was when I had 4 times a mile planned for the day on pretty soggy grass, which we always did to get ready for NXN, because it's the best way to get ready for it, and 3 minutes rest, and I measured it long on purpose. And I didn't tell them, so it was about 3-4 seconds long. And I wanted the first mile, as my top guys, they were the top in the country, I wanted under 4:30. They didn't break 4:30 the first mile, so I was mad. So but I knew they were because they ran, like, let's say it was 4:33 or something. I knew they had run under 4:30, but in their head they didn't, because it was long. Meanwhile, Lex he's like yelling. He's like, I think the wheel's broken. I'm like, it's not broken, Lex. I was like, and I told him to focus. I got on him. So everyone after that was under 4:30. At the end of the day, they probably averaged 4:25, 4:26. But my whole point was, stop limiting yourself. Like, you're limiting yourself. Like, everyone can run faster. Ryan Hall once said it. I heard him quote it, and I hope I don't misquote him. The human body is capable of so much more than you think. And it absolutely is. And even at a young age, we never ran more than 65 miles a week at Newbery Park. I mean, they might be a lot for some of you. It may not be a lot for others. 65 miles, we always had Sundays off. When they got older, they would do a shakeout, 15 minutes, just because I don't like days of doing nothing. Sometimes I think just the routine of waking up and jogging for 15 minutes. But they were about 65. Nico hit 70 once or twice his senior year because it was during COVID and he was training for a 5K, and so did Lex, because he was training, and then he ended up breaking the 5K record. And that was the only reason. But getting kids to believe, like the famous workout of Lex Young, I think this is in the book too, and I might mess up a few seconds, but we did 3 times 2 miles. It's a tough workout. He's training to break the 5K national record, and he went 9:08, 9:06, 8:59, all in the same session. And everyone's like, oh my God, that's crazy. But you got to realize he's a 13:30 guy. When Nico Young would open up workouts in 4:10, But he broke the national record for he ran 750s in an indoor 3K in high school, and that was pre-super shoes. And I think that makes a difference. I really do. So it's as far as how'd they get so good, it was creating that electric atmosphere. When we showed up to races, we talked about this earlier today at lunch, we would have this castle as a tent. I went and raised money that we had 4 or 5 tents. We had a whole courtyard. We had reclining chairs. I had a rug. We had lights. We actually brought a generator so people could have blenders, and we had drinks. I'm not joking. I wanted it so obnoxious that people were like, what the hell is Newbery Park? Who do they think they are? Because I wanted my guys to be excited about being there and have this sense of pride of Newbery Park. Because when I showed up, it was so sad my first year that we laid a tarp on the ground and we were in the corner, and I'm like, this is about raising money, and if I have to put my own money in it, I'll do it. And that's what I said. I always told them, I said, you're never going to get a coach working harder than me. And maybe I'm wrong, there's coaches out there that worked harder, but shoot, I went to altitude camp with them for a month and I slept in a closet, because all the kids had to have rooms and beds. So there was a closet that you could walk into and lay down. I got a mattress, and that was my room for the month, because it was hey, and honestly, the kids, I think, understood that, so they would do a lot. I would do a lot for them. They would do a lot for me. I think creating that atmosphere, and I think everybody in here, I really, really, truly believe it. Even if you think you're like full of yourself and you can run fast, you're all better than you think you are. You absolutely are, no matter what level. Because like I'm going to go back to the Ryan Hall quote, like the human body is capable of way more than you think, and it really is. And it's like, give yourself that like get that opportunity in practice and like wow yourself. I'm dead serious, and it may sound cheesy and it may sound corny, but give yourself that opportunity in a workout to wow yourself, and then use that in a race. I always say and you take it one at a time. I used to sit there and do workouts. Lex and Leo will tell you, Nico, all those guys. I go, focus on the task at hand. If you're doing 10 times 400 minute rest, basic miler workout, right? Don't worry about number. I'd always say, I don't care about number 5. I care about number 4. Then I'd be like, I care about number 5, not number 6. Because I was like, I don't care if you walk at the end. And sometimes they almost were, but eventually you get it, And it's like, if an athlete trusts in me and we have that bond, that's what makes the magic. To me, it's so hard. So many kids have asked me to coach them online, and I can't do that. I have to watch an athlete. I want to be there. I want that atmosphere. There's something electric. My famous example is this, and hopefully I'm not all over the place. I can just talk, but my famous line is this. There's 2 comedians in a room, comedian A and comedian B. They both say the same exact joke. Why is one funny and the other one not? It's the delivery. It's the way you say it. It's the connection you have with the audience. It's the same way with your athletes. When you have that connection and they believe in you, and you can look in a kid's eye and know, that's the connection. And people want to know. I think that's a big reason why Newbery Park is so good. And I believe this at all levels. I think at the professional level, the collegiate level. I did it in college. I was like, when I was at Newbery Park, I was like, every other day, I was like, I might get fired. I was like, because I am like getting on these kids to doing what I wanted, but then they start believing. Same thing, it's like when I went to college, I was like, listen, guys, this is what I want. When I was at Queen's University, a Division II school years ago, we had guys breaking barriers that were just like out of this world for Division II back then. And it's like, I think it's that connection. So in a long way, I answered that question. I don't know. So.
This is our first time actually speaking publicly together about the book, so we're pretty excited to be here. So, yeah.
No. Well, maybe this is a good time to stop for questions from everybody here. There's a lot of people here, which is great. And I'm sure you guys have a lot of, I expect you guys have a lot of questions. Anybody have anything they want to ask of Chris or Sean? Yeah.
So, you said you one about yourself, why Newbery Park is actually really good about this. You said about saying part. All right, but what about enjoying the process of growing strong?
Yeah. No, that's a good question. I think that kind of comes along with it. I think. That's what I mean, like creating that atmosphere where it's fun, Like, one of the silly things I always said, it was like Newbery Park made split shorts cool. Like our freshmen, like, how they show up wearing long basketball shorts and they're running, and it's like, okay, but like I think the practicality, you didn't want to run in those. And I think when you create that atmosphere, it's like we talked about earlier too, it's like you want, like, it's so important for them to like do well at their level that I think it's fun. Yeah, winning is fun. I get that. But not everyone, like I said, is going to run 410, 420, 430, whatever. But I think, having creating that atmosphere where that kid, like his individual goal, and that's the blessing we all have with track and field and cross country, is like those individual goals mean a lot. And I think that's great. Because there's guys that broke 5 minutes and were like, that's their Olympic moment. I talk about that all the time. Like, what's your Olympic moment? Like, we all don't make the Olympics. Like, not everyone's going to be an Olympian, and we all strive to be one at one point. I think I had the aspirations one day, so did Chris, and it didn't work out for me. But I also think that's what made me successful as a coach, because like I wanted to know why and how I could make someone better, because I wasn't, So, but I think I think creating an atmosphere to have them enjoy that process is really important,
and also them just like getting that enormous satisfaction of like conquering like a really intimidating workout, and then they just feel really good about it afterwards.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And you gotta have fun too. Like when we go to camp, like we would go to camp up in Big Bear for a month, and like we would go to these things called the rocks. They were like cliffs to jump off of, and then we had this thing like everyone had to do a flip. not everyone did it, but like we would try to get everyone to do a flip, but it's kind of scary. It's like a 20-foot cliff, so some people didn't want to flip off it. So I did. I thought I was going to break my back, and I was like, oh man, I look stupid in front of these guys if I don't do it. And I did it, and it was like, we talk about that in the book too, and it's funny, but like, I think you gotta have fun, especially at the high school level, even at the pro level, you gotta have fun. I'm not saying like, go out and ruin sleep, but I think like, you gotta, sometimes you have to step away and relax and like enjoy the moment. And like, just as much as I'm a coach that's like, okay, I just want to extend. Now how do I go from here? It's like, sometimes you do have to step back and enjoy that moment and be like, man, this is freaking pretty epic what we just did. So.
No, it's anybody else?
Yeah. Do you think double threshold works?
I mean, okay, I'm not going to make some coaches mad. People ask me this. I'm not a huge fan of double threshold from the aspect of actually double threshold. I think a lot of times I talk to people, like I'm going to say a professional. I'm going to talk about a professional right now that I know that's like, okay, I'm doing double T today. I was like, okay, what was your session? I saw his second session. I didn't see his first session. But his first session was like an 8-mile threshold. I'm like, that's great. But I was like, you're at the track right now, and you're running Ks in like 230, 231, that's not threshold. So I think a lot of times it's a misconception of what we're actually doing. It's just like double sessions. To me, that's block training. That's not double threshold. I think double threshold does work, but like the way I would implement it wouldn't be something on the regular basis of weekly. Although my weeks are usually 10 days. Like I like to do long runs every 10 days, not every 7 days, because you can fit more in there and you have more room for error when you're tired, take an extra day, so forth. It just gets tricky during the season. So when we're in the bulk of the season, like championship season, then we switch to 7. But with like summer, it's always 10 days. Sometimes 9, sometimes 12. I go on gut a lot of watching my athletes, seeing like, hey, let's do a long run tomorrow. Or like, let's hold off, let's take another day, and that's what I do. But I think it does work, and I think it's proven. I think it's, listen, I had a really good coach tell me, monkey see, monkey do, and this was like one of the most successful coaches out there. You guys would know who I when I say his name, you'd know him. And he's coached world champions. So he doesn't do it. The Japanese don't do it. Not the Kenyans, but there's a lot of Africans that don't do it. So it's like, does it work? Yeah, it works. But I would implement it in a professional program like periodically. I think there's room for everything, and I think it would just depend on the situation. But I wouldn't get caught up on a workout like, okay, this is 100% going to work. Like just because I'm doing double threshold, like I can see a need for it. Like when you even have an inexperienced kid who cannot do the full session, but I know that's not what the pros are doing. The pros are getting large volumes in, but. So I don't think it's a magic workout. I don't think anything is, but I'm not against it. But I'd personally probably lean more away from it than leaning towards it. But that's just me. And like, don't change anything if that's, because I know people that do it, But I also know pros that claim they don't do speed work and they're doing 49-second 400. So if that's, I don't know what speed work is if you're doing that. So it just depends on who what speed is. Yeah.
How much do you individualize trainings? It sounds like a lot of what you do is like, letting people be fast, and I think some of that comes into like believing that you can hang in workouts that maybe aren't super suited to you at the time, and like then learning to believe in yourself. Like, how much do you tailor workouts even for like you're not egos?
No, yeah, I mean that's a good question. See, I was very individualized, but I think you're right. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're saying like maybe like if a guy maybe needs that confidence to be with these guys in a certain workout that wasn't going to really benefit him as much as another runner. But I was all over the place. I was very individualized with my team. I was very lucky that maybe I'm not lucky, but I didn't have huge teams at Newbery Park. Even like when I was at UCLA, we had like 20 guys. I was like, I want 14. Like, I don't want 20. Because I felt like the people that were in the back end, they were never going to travel. Unless they're okay with that. I just felt like they never got the experience. And it wasn't my fault. I couldn't take them because the head coach wouldn't allow it. But we were never big teams. I think, my girls team that was ranked top 10 in the country, broke national records that year. We had 18. That was my whole cross country team, 18 girls in high school. But that was just because Newbery Park cross country wasn't a cool sport there. But that's okay. Everybody that came out was I wanted them there. I did get in trouble for telling kids that didn't want to be there to join the water polo team. And the water polo coach wasn't happy with me because they had like a team that would just float in the water and not travel. So I was like, go join that team. And then he like ripped into me one day, and then I would still tell him, go join that team. But like, I don't care if you run, I will answer that question, but I'm going to back up a little. One of my favorite girls in the team, I'm still friends with today, her PR when she graduated was 27 minutes for 3 miles. She went to a small university up in Oregon, tried out for a Division III team, didn't make the team. I told her to join a club. She found a local club. She ended up running 22 minutes before she graduated, and she like called me in like tears. And like that I still love that because she put just as much work in as Nico. She just didn't have I understand she didn't have the talent, or the other girls. But I like to tailor workouts. Listen, I live and breathe this. Like, I know we've talked about it. Other coaches have said this too. Like, I don't golf. I don't even really watch football. Like, I know it's bad. Like, I love track and field. Like, I could watch Diamond League races over and over. I watched some of the old ones when they were the gold. What was it? The golden. What was it called? The Golden League. Like, I watched those old ones on YouTube, and I mean, I spent time with Steve Scott. And I would watch races in like the 70s and 80s, like these old races. And I would watch him with him. Steve Scott, if you guys know, ran 130 something, I think 136, sub 4 minutes in the mile, ran 347 back in the day. I worked with him in San Marcos. He was coaching me at one point, and like he would be like, I don't even remember that race. And he would but I was just like, I loved watching that. And like, he gave me the best race advice I ever, he just gave such good advice because he was so experienced. But individualization, like, I think it's so important. I know a lot of, I don't want to fall into that trap. I think you do a little bit in cross country because they need to be a team and train together. But like, what I can tell you, I had this electric scooter when I was at Newbery Park that went 25 miles an hour so I could always catch everybody. I ran up to the girls one day, and I remember I was like, stop now, everyone stop. And this was my team that was like top 10 in the country that year, really good. I said, you, and you are all, why are you all running together on a training run day, which is a pretty hard day? I said, you should not be running together. So, and like, I was trying to make a point because I gave them times. I was very specific about certain times. I had 3 types of runs: recovery, easy, and training. They're all different. I think for high schools, I think that's a big missed window in high school training. There's just workout, easy, workout, easy. I don't think it should be like that. So to answer that in a long way, as I always do, it's very individualized, big time. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. Down the center.
What do you think was your biggest struggle in high school?
Biggest struggle in high school? Not getting complaints every week. No, I'm just kidding. My principal once told me, he's like, it's Friday and we haven't had no complaints this week. But he was my biggest fan, so he helped. But my biggest struggle was getting the parents aboard, honestly, because when I coach high school, it's about having the parents believe in you too, because they're 15, 16, 17, they're not adults yet. So I wanted them to trust me and believe in what I was doing, and like, that was my biggest struggle, and like, the hardest part were the PE kids, the kids that came out to get PE credit. But lo and behold, I think those kids eventually would cut themselves that didn't want to be there. Not that we created like a bad, toxic environment, but I was like, listen, I'm like a football coach. Like, if you don't want to be here and you don't want to run, then don't be here. I had a girl that I caught like 3 times going to Trader Joe's instead of running. Like, I was like, this is crazy. So then I got rid of practice on campus and we met at places so nobody could do that. But I had to have like a heart-to-heart with her. Like, do you want, like, if you don't want to run, like, go, you don't have to do this. This is not the sport for you. But the hardest part was getting the parents to believe in it. Like, the first time going to altitude for 4 weeks was like, I knew that was a breaking point. Because if we didn't do it, I didn't think we were going to win. But then we did it, and then next year the girls wanted to go. So I was like, shoot, I need a mom to stay with the girls in the girls' house, and we did that. So we'd have the girls go. So.
Now, were you asking that question for him as a coach or him as when he was a high school runner?
I was a coach, but now that you mention it, yeah, you mind as a high school athlete?
Well, probably why I became a coach. Like, I was probably the worst athlete to coach because I always questioned my coach. When I was in high school, even when I was in college, I ran for a few colleges, but like, even questioning my college coach, actually one time, I'll tell you a story. When I was at Adams State, we were doing lappers at the, we would do them on Cole Park and the grass on the infield. And I was complaining, and he pulled me aside and was like, never do that again, basically. Never do that again in front of like the whole team. Because I don't know, whatever. But I was my own enemy, because I always wanted to know, like, why, what made you fast? Like, what workouts were good? So I trained too hard. Post-collegiately, I did workouts that should have had me running 337, 336, but I never did. You know, I ran 344. Like, I would just run, I mean, I would do sessions on purpose. This sounds crazy, but now that everyone's looking at me, I'm saying this, but I would do sessions to see, like, how I could throw up. Like, I was like, what makes, and it was insane. Like, I would just do crazy stuff. I would do 200s until, I mean, I just would never do that. So I think as an athlete, that was just like me trying to figure it out. Like, I just, you know, I look back, and I even talk about in the book, there was a coach that I worked with at one point. His name was Andy Downen. He was a really good runner back in the day. And I think, Matt's brother. So Andy, if I would have listened to him, I probably would have been a better runner. But I was constantly fighting him on, like, oh, how come I don't feel like, because I didn't, and meanwhile, like, I look at now, I'm like, wait, I'm pretty darn similar to Andy. And like, now I could like joke with him and be like, man, I was such a jerk to coach back then. And so I think I was my own, you know, but I think that you get that a lot. It's like, I've talked to some great, amazing, like, pro coaches, and they're like, oh, I would hate to coach myself as an athlete. So.
What is your definition of a speed day? Do you do that like every week or 10 days?
Depending. There's like a few. I can give you examples. So like I like raw speed. Like I would do it like all the time. Like where you're doing 30s, 40s, 50s, like all out fast. That neuromuscularly, you need to work on that. You need to go fast. I'm not big into strides, running 3,200 meter pace, 3K pace. Like you need to run fast. Like that's just how I am. But like I'm really into like the mechanic side of it. So that would be like a speed day when we're actually just doing really short, fast stuff. One of my famous speed sessions I do at all levels, and I you know, you could ask Lex and Leo if you ever run into them here. Like we would do this in the middle of cross country, and they love it. It's a V-Hill workout, Joe V-Hill, these guys. It's called the acceleration workout, and what we would do is like we'd even do it on grass sometimes, or we would do it on the track. Mostly cross country, we always did it on grass. We never did it on the track. All right, these guys are laughing over here. Okay. No. So what we would do is it goes 100 meters, 110, 120, 130, 140, 150, 160, 170, 180, 190, 200. So it increases 10 meters. You get 3 minutes rest in between. You start at your mile pace. In cross country, you can be a little slower because you're on the dirt or the grass. So you go. So let's say you're a 4 flat miler. Easy math. So you go 15 seconds. Then every 10 meters, it's a second slower. So it goes 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and then you're closing in 20 seconds, 24 seconds for 200s. So you're starting at your mile pace, and you're pretty much ending at your 400 pace, roughly. Now, if you're slower than a 4-minute miler, if you're a 5-minute miler, and that's what you are, then you would probably, I would say add like 1.2 seconds to that. Like you'd add a little bit more. You can kind of play with that. But you want to finish. You want to progress the whole time, and you want to finish at close to your 400 pace, which is pretty right, because like Colin Salmon, right before he broke 4 minutes, he closed in like 24:1 or something, like 10 days out when he broke 3:58 for the first time indoors. But he was cruising it, like looked good. And he could run 48 seconds in high school, I'm sure. So it's like, that's kind of like, that's a speed session. Like I'd say every 3 weeks, 10 days. But like I like to do faster stuff, especially when I was at UCLA. Like my miler is like all my 800 people all year round. I mean, we would do acceleration stuff in the middle of the summer up in Mammoth, and like, you know, in August and September. That's where we would go with UCLA, and then they would be like, what the hell are we doing this for? And I'm like, no, trust me, you know. And then I had a guy who was like a 402 guy. He closed the workout in 23 something in the middle of the summer. I was like, this guy should be running 355. And lo and behold, he ran 354 that year. And it was like, so that's what I mean by speed. But like, you need to work on your form too. Like the worst thing that I always think is when I see athletes run, and like, listen, we all have different quirks and we could fix it. And like, there's no picture perfect. There may be one guy I've ever seen in history that's picture perfect. And like, they're running this way. You know what I'm saying? Like, really work on your form. Like, work on your mechanics. And like, the great thing is, like, you fix that. To me, like, if you could fix your form, like, you're going to improve automatically without having to do harder workouts. So fast strides for sure, but like, maybe try some 30, 40, 50s, like, you know, like 3 times 30, 3 times 40, 3 times 50. And don't be like, well, I got to get all this mileage in today. That's just as important. Having it, not just doing that, like maybe do 4 miles and then cool down 2 miles, but like, you know what I mean? Like, don't like do an acceleration workout for my guys when I was at Newbery Park was like a break. Even though that workout gets really hard at 170, 180, 190, 200, that's a really hard workout at the end, but it was still like better than doing 4 times a mile and 420 something, you know, as far as like the effort. So that's what I mean by speed. So.
Pat. Yeah.
How do you approach tapering?
That's a great question. So, funny story, when we went to NXN the first time, and we showed up on Thursday, and I think we were like a little bit late the first year we went there. You were on that team the first year, right?
No.
Well, you're not? Are you okay?
2019.
Oh, 2019.
I was still in 8th grade.
Oh, okay, that's right. Okay. I was thinking that. So the first year we showed up, we were a little late. Like, our plane was a little late, and I'll talk about the full tapering thing, but this was the Thursday before NXN. NXN's on Saturday, and we still had a 7-mile run. Our normal run was 8, and it was like Run with the Pro Day up at Nanke, and they have like Evan Jager, and they have Colleen Quigley, and all these kids get to run with the pro athletes. They're jogging like 15 minutes. I'm like, what the hell are they doing? So we show up late, and they're like, you got to go to a meeting. And I'm like, I was like, okay. I was like, we have to get it running. And they're like, well, just go quickly get it. I'm like, we have 7 miles. Like, you have 7 miles? They're like,
The day before the race?
2 days. So I said, we have to get our running. And I'm like, all right, we'll be at the meeting. We never went, we didn't go to the meeting. So we ran our 7 miles. I took them out. And the whole point is like, you don't want to detrain. So like, yeah, this was 2 days before the race. So if my guys they were almost at a mileage. I think they were normal mileage except for maybe 5 to 10 miles like the week before. Meaning like our normal run was 8 miles. We would cut out morning. Like, I think 3 weeks before is where you really start thinking like, hey, let me start like, you know, like thinking about tapering as far as like when I hate the word taper, but like, because I think the misconception is like, you just do nothing, you just rest, you run easy. But like the week of a race, like we would still run, I remember Nico, my top guys, these guys, we would still run a workout on Tuesday where we would open up in 425, like really fast for a mile on a cross country course. And then we would do like 2 times 800. So it's only 2 miles in volume, but full rest as much as you want. If you want to take 10 minutes, take it. If you want 4 minutes, take it. I don't want any buildup. So we would do that the week of a race. My thing is like, you don't want to detrain, because I had a coach that was a big mentor to me named Scott Simmons, and he was up here for a little bit and coached at University of Queens when I was a volunteer there. And he's coaches successful pros now. He's coached medalists, Paul Shalemo for years, and like, he would always show me research that shows like, why do my guys run the best at the highest mileage of the season? So it's like, I get that sometimes, but like, so what's the compromise? So my compromise is these guys are running 65 miles a week. We probably ran 50 the week of NXN, but like we did our last hard workout 12 days out, really hard workout. I mean, your body recovers. Like, I mean, marathon's a whole nother world. Like, I don't want to get into that, but like, I just think people are scared. Like, even when I do, like all my milers, the day before a mile, like if you're racing a mile tomorrow, today you would do 4 times 400 on the track, 5 minutes rest, 5 to 7 minutes rest at your mile pace. If you're a 4 flat guy, you'd go 60, 60, 60, 60 the day before. Some kids are scared of that. You're going to recover from that. That's not hard. You're having no buildup. It's only you're having such a break in between. So as far as like peaking in cross country, I'd say 3 weeks out, I'll probably, the workouts, we do our last big workout 2 weeks before. We would cut morning runs, which is like 3 miles 3 days a week, 4 miles 3 days a week. That's the only thing we'd cut. And then the week before, there would be no more morning runs like normal. The workout would be adjusted to 2 miles of volume, and we would do 7 miles instead of 8 for a regular run. So I just don't think, you want to be careful of detraining. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I know there's different studies that shows like you can do nothing for 10 days and still run your optimal performance. I don't know. I just think like you want to be careful of what you do, but you want to keep that central nervous system going, and like that's why I believe the day before a race too, like jogging really easy for 15 minutes. If you have to do it, you have to do it. But like, it's okay. I mean, one year we got in trouble sending my guys to Brooks PR. It was the only year we ever did it. Colin Salmon showed up, Sam McDonald and Aaron Salmon, and they called me because they're like, they only gave us 45 minutes for our pre-race. I'm like, are you kidding? So I called the guys from Brooks. I'm like, what do you mean you gave them 45 minutes? He's like, well, because the track, we only had it for 45 minutes. It's like, that's the only reason, coach. And then I talked to the head coach of Washington. He's like, no, they had it the whole day. They just had like other planned events. But like my pre-race day takes a couple hours. Warm up, stretching, all that stuff. So it's just, don't detrain. That's how I always say it, so.
Good question. Yeah.
Who was your biggest inspiration throughout your career?
Like athlete or coach or anyone?
Yeah, like who inspired you to become a coach? And
That's a great question.
Yeah, I mean, this is easy for me. I mean, that's why I ask athletes. This is my grandfather. My grandfather was my youth coach and helped coach me in high school. When my grandfather passed away, it was right before I started getting to having some really good coaching results. He was 87 years old, and the day of his funeral, I ran 87 laps on a track in his honor. He was, like I said, one of my mentor coaches is like, Sean, honestly, even if you don't know, you better pretend or tell them you could fix it, because it's your job to find out. And that's what I look at. Because when guys run bad and they have poor performances, I lose sleep because I feel like, well, what did I do? Because this kid is doing everything I asked from him, and he just got 20th when he should have been top 5 or whatever. So I think it's just, you got to have a relationship with your coach, and hopefully they're open to figuring it out. And sometimes it's the coach admitting they're wrong. I mean, I remember when I was at UCLA, one of the girls ran a 3K and she ran like 9:14, and for her she was very upset by that. And I was upset because I was like, shit, I thought she was going to run like 8:50. And she didn't. And she came up to me and I was like, I don't know, but we're going to figure it out. And let's talk on Monday and let's figure this out, because I think I might have done something that screwed this up. And I think that eases the athlete. So as a coach, so I'm giving coaching advice, but like, you will figure it out. If you're both open, you're going to figure it out, because maybe it's something the coach did. Maybe maybe there's personal things, who knows? But like, I think that's the great thing about coaching. It's relationships. Like I said, it's the having that relationship with the athlete. So.
Yeah.
What's like the biggest change you notice nowadays, I guess, both collegiately and in high school since running with the Buffaloes?
Good question. Biggest difference I've seen nowadays, collegiately. So I think from just like a X's and O's standpoint, back in the running with the Buffaloes kind of era, most coaches, you probably agree, like didn't feel like it was worth the time to work on your mechanics and your sprint form, and it was really accepted that the more you run, the more efficient your body is going to become, and you only have so many hours in the day, so we're not going to spend time working on really improving that. Whereas you can see from what Sean has shared tonight that they're always looking at how to fine-tune your mechanics and develop that. So that's the biggest difference from that standpoint. From like a psychological standpoint, and I give a lot of credit to these young men over here and what they did at Newbery Park. And I think American kids now have a mindset of like, why not me? Why not us? Like, we're going to win the freaking gold. I look at Nico now and what he's doing, and I look at him, it's like, I just got goosebumps. I think that they don't put any limit on what they can possibly achieve, and that was something that back in the day where maybe one American would qualify for the World Championship in different events, that we really looked at the Africans in particular as like there's like a different species and we're never going to be able to compete, and that's gone. That mentality is gone, and it's I think part of it is when you have a group of people that change the paradigm and change the conception of what's possible, man, it's amazing how quickly people follow suit. And like when Roger Bannister broke the sub 4 minute mile for the first time, in the next 2 weeks, 2 other guys did it, right? So Newbery Park showed what's possible. And, who's next?